Okay, when you're using, or when you're countering a single with a Kimura, we absolutely have to be careful because there is a very, very strong lift. And so how do we stop that? All we do is we make sure that his single is really in poor shape, meaning that we have a very, very heavy aspect on his back and his head so that his back gets curved. We're gonna hit a Sumi Gaeshi with our Kimura, and we really just wanna make, the element of Sumi Gaeshi was really, I just want his chest out over his knees. I want his head down and essentially make his head look through his legs. If we do that really well and we keep him away from a straight backed position and we keep his head away from our far hip, then it's gonna be exceptionally hard for him to lift me up. I'll show you the lift really quickly because what I wanna do is just basically do the opposite. If I were to lift Johnny up when he had a Kimura, I need to make sure that I meet some prerequisites. One is I need a straight back. Two, I needed my head all the way over to his far hip and his far armpit. So that really means that he would have to reach way over my head. And if he did that and I was able to get my hips in, now we're lifting him up and we're gonna take him for a ride. I have to meet, as the lifter, I need to meet all of those requirements from that single. Shoulder on the hip, my head he has to reach far enough over my head to get my head in his armpit or hip area, and then I need to have a straight back so his weight goes over my back, and then essentially I can squat him up off the floor, and then we can take him over our head and slam him. As long as when I'm doing the Kimura, I make sure that those things don't happen, it will be really hard for him to lift me. So for instance, he has a single. When we're in this single, I'm gonna stuff Johnny's head so it does not, I don't want this to happen. I don't want to reach over his head. That's now Kimura, so that's lift central here. I'm gonna stuff his head and make sure that when I have a Kimura, I am sagging so his back is already curved. And now we can't give him time to straighten out his back. We have to sit. And so my right foot's gonna step over there to the middle so that we meet this angle. Right now he's in a staggered stance. I would rather not throw him this way. There's a base leg there, so it may go wrong. If he's in a staggered, now if he squares off, it's okay. If he squares, then that's the gap. Here's where we need to take him. We need to take him to this gap right here. I need to go through his legs while he has a square stance. So, if he's in a staggered stance in a great single leg position, I have to hop far enough over there to have that met, where now I'm going through his legs, not towards the lead leg. That could be less than optimal. You still might get your sweep, but you also, he may recover. So when he's in this staggered stance in a high single, we stuff his head. I'm gonna hop around. I need to get to this side. I need to have my hips right here, right at that angle. So once we lock Kimura, I'm gonna hop and sit. We're gonna hop and sit. That way we got to that position. Once we're here now, I'm gonna throttle down. This is very important. We need to throttle down with my left hand. It throttles, both hands throttle down. I want the weight of the Kimura to go into his stomach, and by throttling down, you can see that we lift this elbow off the floor. If I don't throttle down, there's not much stopping him from turning this way into me and having that, getting that elbow to the floor, and now he ends up on top. The reason why we throttle down here is really the essential success to a Kimura trap. Is what happens is it lifts this elbow up off the floor. So when we throttle down and he tries to turn, his elbow stays parallel with the mat, and it becomes very, very difficult to get back on top. So do yourself a favor, throttle down with both hands and keep your arms straight, keep his fist or hand on his stomach, and then walk backwards and come up to the top with those throttled down hands. And now once you guys are here on top, once you're here, I'm gonna start pushing into the stomach, bringing my body up, and then we can start thinking about submitting with Kimura, taking the back. The entire Kimura trap system. Not even to mention that if he bridges and does try to go to my head there, we can take his back right then and there. We'll look at that right now. So again, when you're hitting the Kimura, you need to make sure that the back is bent, that we don't stay on our feet for very long, that his head doesn't get to the far hip or far armpit, And then I create the scenario that I go to this squared off position. Again, we're gonna assume he's in the staggered stance first. If he's in a square stance, you can just sit. But most of the guys, most of the high level single, they're gonna initially be in that staggered stance, and I'm gonna have to hop around the corner and sit down. So he hits his single, I stuff his head, we have our over the arm, we get our wrist grip, our hand gets our wrist grip, we keep his head down, and I quickly get to that position where I'm right in the middle. We hit our Sumi Gaeshi with our leg in the middle. I go and pin his hand to his stomach. Now if Johnny bridges to get to the top, because we've done this, bridge hard buddy, it opens up that gap underneath his hip, my hook can go in, and now we have his back, essentially our Kimura trap system, or the most, you know, there's a very famous Kimura trap system, you can utilize it there. So when you are Kimura-ing somebody from the single, to avoid those elements, you'll have a very successful counter to a single leg, and most likely you'll end up on top unless he has a very good Kimura defense, which we do, and you'll utilize that Kimura.